So, hello and welcome to our ongoing series of Icons of Relocation podcast. My name is Simon Johnston. I'm the CEO of Icon Relocation, a provider of world-leading home search, moving technology, and property management solutions. Now, today, I'm delighted to be joined by Paul Bernardt from Harmony Relocation Network, which, in full disclosure, I can confirm that we joined back in 2019. It's also no secret that we're delighted to be part of this network. And I believe, and perhaps Paul can correct me, we were the first relocation-led company to have joined the network from 2019. So it's just great to have you here with us, Paul. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you're all well.
Yes, doing well. Very well. Thank you for having me, Simon.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's so I'm genuinely looking forward to this conversation because you and I talk a lot and we've been working together on a lot, but I just really like to sort of explore a bit more about Harmony and to explain why it's such a great network. So for those who don't know you or indeed Harmony, could you give us an oversight on the group?
Yeah, absolutely. So Harmony is we're a network of moving companies and DSPs, or relocation providers, for those that don't understand the terminology DSP, which is a strange term anyway, because it's not just destination. And we have been in existence for about 30 years now. Started out early 90s when Europe opened up, the borders opened up, etc. And slowly but surely, the network developed and expanded from what was first a European network to a global network, end of the 90s, more or less, early 2000s. And we have expanded the scope in the last couple of years from not just moving companies, but also relocation companies. And what we really are is a cooperative of small to medium-sized and some larger independent, oftentimes family-owned businesses who are independent. They compete in their own market, and they all are a co-owner of Harmony. There's about 140, recently I think about 145 now companies that are part of the network in a total of 66 countries already, and that is expanding. As Harmony, we operate, or we're a shared service center. So we're not a commercial entity. So we help our member companies to be commercially more successful. That means that we provide sales support, marketing support, RFPs and pricing, technology support. We purchase services that you can better purchase at large, things like insurance, etc. And thereby do things like compliance centrally, ISO certification for quality, environment, health and safety. So all the stuff that you can do collectively better than you could do individually, saving costs basically. So that's what we do. And we are a bit of we're a unique network in the sense that we're in fact the only global network that is set up as a cooperative with a real shared service structure. I mean, you've seen, and you're also a part of that. There's other networks out there on the moving side, on the relocation side, that are networks. They have a brand name, but there's no real substance to it in terms of shared services. So there's no tangible benefit of being part of that network, and we try to fill that gap as Harmony to attract larger companies. We are there 4 members, founded by members, founded for members. So the members really are the ones that we serve and the ones that we try to make more successful.
Well, great overview, and I have to say I totally agree. It's since joining, it's been a pleasure to work with you in Harmony. It's probably the best. Well, let's be honest, it's probably the best group that we've joined in our company history. So that says something, because there's some quality groups out there. Perhaps we can explore it from a corporate company's point of view. So somebody who's looking to buy relocation or moving services, using a Harmony member, I suspect obviously has a lot of values, but from their perspective, do you have any sort of views about why they should be drawn to a Harmony member more than anybody else?
Yes. What you see is that the Harmony members, they're all small, medium-sized, and some large, but they're not in themselves global companies. That's why they joined the network in the first place. So they're not networks by themselves. And the global competition that we see are very active, of course, in what we call the tier 1 market, the huge multinationals with large outsourced programs, and those are, of course, targets for the traditional relocation management companies. And what you see is that the Harmony members in general are more active in the tier below that, tier 2, tier 3, whereby the client wants a more personal service. doesn't want to outsource everything and anything. They want to outsource the moving, want to outsource the DSP, sometimes the immigration. Depends a bit on the scope, but not anything, like compensation benefits. So stay far away from whatever touches compliance. And because clients, especially in the European continent, often work with some of the big four for those elements. And that's the sweet spot of a Harmony member, whereby you have access to a global delivery network of excellent service providers in most of the countries that really focus on service delivery. That's what they're, that's in their nature. That's why they founded the business, of course, in the first place. Yet the global network gives you the compliance, the outsource certification, the technology, etc., for you to be able to compete with some of those larger companies that also operate in the space. So I think the strength of the Harmony member, the typical Harmony member, would be local relationships, the culture, not a lot of staff changes. People tend to stay with those small to medium-sized companies. You don't see those big revolving doors where people go in and out. There's more stability there from an account management perspective, from a relocation or move coordinator perspective. So it's a much more personal service that the Harmony member can give compared to, a larger entity.
No, I have to say I totally agree with that, and everything that our experience has been backing that up. But just sort of picking back up on something you said earlier, I believe you said you're in 60 countries?
66, yeah.
66.
Yeah.
So can you give us a sort of view about what's in the future for Harmony? Are you looking to grow that? Is that looking to be larger than that, or are you looking for more depth in those countries? What's Harmony's ambitions?
I think there's a few, let's say, obvious countries where we could expand. It's a small industry that we work in, so there's not a lot of companies in certain markets that we're not yet present. So we work with an agent in those type of countries. If I look at the world map, well, I'm not looking at it, but if I think of the world map, then I would say there's probably 6 or 7 countries where I think we should expand, where there's a sufficient amount of economic activity, where there's a sufficient amount of expats or assignments going to and from, whereby it would justify having a member at some point. But if you're in a small country and you're a local relocation company or moving company, you really have no competition. It doesn't make any sense to join one particular network because the whole world is working with you anyway. And so even though there's, 195 countries globally, perhaps 205 according to the FIFA regulations. Forget about football. I mean, there's 195 countries, and many of them are small islands. We'll never have a member there. That doesn't justify the investment. You'll see members in those markets where there's a fairly large immigration and for expats and assignments, and not in other countries. So there's a few markets where we are still not represented, but we'll get there in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point, isn't it? There's not the aim to be in every country for the sake of it. It's to be in the countries where there is a high turnover of assignees and where that excellence is required.
Yeah, but I think that with the 66 countries where we are now, I think it's fair to say that we would cover about 95% of the expat population, so to speak, the regular corporate expat type population. And there's so many countries still not covered. I mean, about 120 or so that we're not, but those are very, very small countries or countries in trouble, or countries where there's simply not enough business. Yeah. But network development, I mean, we want to expand, but at the same time, we need to keep in mind that the network itself is also evolving. We consist of the members are all business owners. Business owners sometimes change, the network changes. Every now and then the company goes out of business or is sold for whatever reason, joins a competing organization. So network development, also in our existing markets, is something we need to continuously do. It doesn't stop. So we need to both expand as well as manage the existing network to make sure that there's a healthy market share in each market.
Well said. Can I just sort of go back on a comment? Because one of the things that really interests me is everything really around quality and also making sure that you can show the highest quality. Now, one of the things that drove us to joining Harmony was the fact that the ISO audits, 9001, 14001, etc. You have your own in-house auditor in regard to this. Could you maybe just explore this a bit more? Because I think quality is just so important. So why do you have your own in-house auditor? Why do you take this part so seriously?
Because we feel it's the only way we can really control that part. There's quite a few quality systems around by multiple industry organizations, so to speak. But if you look at what the corporate worlds expect, they expect an objective system, and we think ISO, of course, is the most objective and most well-known measurement system around. Plus the fact that we have a global network that needs to be supported by auditors that also cover and audit globally. So we have our internal auditor, but we've been ISO certified since 1996. So for a long time already, and we've had that group certification since that time. And sometimes, if we speak to clients, we're a network of independent companies, and you could think of the fact that operationally or supply chain management is not so fixed, but through that ISO certification, that's really the cement of the organization. It's the rules and regulations companies must stick to, must abide by. And so it is important we audit that internally as well as externally. So we have one person, actually two. One is responsible, but we have two actually traveling and doing internal audits many times. Actually, he is currently in Uruguay, and he'll be back next week, and the week after he is in Brazil. So he is actively auditing, and but it's important, and he's extremely objective. It's not something, if we audit somebody and let's say we propose them to our external auditors, which is Lloyd's Registers, for ISO certification, they will then do a selection of those companies, and if we haven't done our work right, it's not going to happen. So we have to take those audits seriously, and it works well.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think, I believe anyway, you're the only organization that insists that all members secure ISO 9001. Yeah. So, and I don't believe that any other group doing that. So, why that's interesting, certainly from our perspective, is that we know that when we start working with any of the other Harmony members, wherever they are in the world, they're at the same standard, which is difficult for other networks to really confirm, if you like, to explore. So it is an interesting aspect, and one which I believe needs to be sort of properly aired. So
we do stay in line with there's industry standards. On the shipping side, there's the FIDI norm. On the DSP side, there's the Euro Quality Seal.
Right.
FIDI is mandatory for or famous mandatory for FIDI companies, of course. Euro Quality Seal is not mandatory for Euro members, but we try to stay in line with what those certifications demand operationally, so that our members don't have to comply with two different sets of rules. One says A, the other says B. So we do make sure that we comply with, from an operational perspective, with the industry standards.
Yeah, it's actually worth exploring, because for a second, for those who don't know, the EUA does the EUA Quality Seal, which is based on ISO 9001, which is something we've had since 2008, I believe. I think we're the first UK company to ever got the EUA Quality Seal. So while it's based on 9001, I believe the key issue here is with Harmony, you've actually now got 9001 and we're getting 14001, so everything's covered. So it's worth just exploring that. That sounds really amazing.
Can I perhaps add something to that?
Please.
On the quality part. Every member company, on an annual basis, they must do what we call an annual review, and all the members do that. The end result of that is that you, as an individual member, you can benchmark yourself against what all the other what the group does, so you can see if you're above or below the benchmark from quality results, etc., claim percentage, and the outcome of that annual review is then at the same time the input for your management review. Management reviews are, of course, important. You have to look at what you've done, where you will need to improve. And if you look at what 140 other companies are doing, you can compare yourself against that norm. That's very, very valuable, obviously.
I think it's more than just valuable. I mean, we're in this incredible changing market at the moment, which we're seeing across the world, isn't it? From a housing point of view or a freight point of view, to make sure that all Harmony members are actually challenging each other to become better, it's got to be good for us, but also good for our clients.
Yeah.
Paul, this is amazing. Is there anything else that you would like to explore in Harmony before we sort of bring this podcast to a close?
No, I think that there is the stability of our the way we're organized. Our network is a real benefit. We're here to stay, and you'll see companies come and you'll see companies go, but every year we grow with 10 to 15 new member companies. So there's there's not a lot of it's not extremely complicated to start a moving company or to start a relocation company. So the threshold to join, and so you'll see, the whole industry will develop. You'll see, on the one hand, you see centralization of companies being bought by other companies. But the good thing about the concept of our network is that it'll continue to grow, because there's going to be new entrepreneurs with younger people with new ideas, etc.
Yeah.
And that's the good part of it.
And also, the other thing which I find very interesting at the moment is that everything's becoming more technical in the sense of technology-wise, systems-wise, driven-wise. I know this is a conversation you and I have had a few times before. What I find is really interesting is that there's a lot to trying to get some, excuse the pun, harmony here on the systems as well, and try and get that flow level information. If we can get to that stage, that would be extraordinary for all members and all for all clients, wouldn't it? I mean, I know it's an aspirational goal, but I know it's something that we all have ambition to get to.
Yeah, it's ambitious, and I think it's what we see now. It's a collective industry effort whereby all the associations are involved to make sure that we have at least a standard by which we exchange information. It's going to be very difficult for the branch to adopt one particular system like the travel industry has done. With the Amadeus type systems, you won't find that in moving and relocation. We're simply too small a branch for big tech to approach that. So we'll need to, every company, of course, is working on their own technology, which works for them. But then to exchange information must be done through simple standards. So we're actually quite far with it. We have interfaces and APIs with quite a few companies already, clients and competitors and member companies, and that works well.
So any potential client of a Harmony member, if they're looking for API connectivity, this is obviously something that collectively we can help them with. I know we can, but also the Harmony network can. So if anybody wants to have that, it's certainly on the table.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually one of the shared services we offer, and many companies have used that, either to connect members with each other or to connect members with their customers. But we have a team of 2 or 3 people that understand it, know how to do it, and we have the very, very good technology in place to let's say translate from one system to the other.
Again, this is a conversation I'm trying to hold myself back, because it's one of my favorite things to talk about at the moment. Is getting to a position where we actually get free flow of information as close to real time as possible. And if we can actually get that across the Harmony network, that's game changing, I think, for us as members, but also for our clients. So, but I'm going to park that. Otherwise, we're going to go down that rabbit hole way too far. Paul, I'm going to just say thank you so much for your time. It's great. I know we've got the Harmony conference coming up fairly shortly, so I know there's going to be a lot talking about. I just wanted to sort of get a flavour of Harmony. With your permission, it'll be great if we can maybe circle back later and actually dive into some other topics in more detail, which would be amazing to do. But in the meantime, thank you so much for your time, Paul.
You're welcome.
Take care.